guys, I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up, give up.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Harry. That melodious voice you hear is of our station manager, Harry, WNHH 103.5 FM. And Harry, we're doing this show particularly for you because we have some folks that are involved with the Yale Police Department and FBI collaboration, and we're the show's designed to keep you safe, Harry. That's the show. We're calling out all the troops. We're calling out the SWAT teams. We're calling out the security forces. We're calling out some young talent to keep you and your family and your future generations safe. All jokes aside, we're going to share some information pertaining to the Yale Police Department initiative in collaboration with the FBI. And Joanne Benson is going to kick us off to kind of explain this really important initiative. But just as importantly, it's a summer opportunity program that's going to be held virtually this summer for high school students. And we're blessed even to have several high school students on the show. They're going to kind of share about their experience, how they perceive the program, why it's important to them, what they got out of it, what they've shared with their peers. And then the second segment, we're going to do that for about 25 minutes. And then the second segment, we're going to talk about this, there are multiple pandemics taking place, but certainly we know about the public health pandemic, but there's an economic pandemic taking place. So there's something called the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and some of those folks are going to join us and share that as well. So whether you think the world is in crisis today or whether you think the world has been in crisis since Adam and Eve's time, that's kind of a metaphorical comment, but certainly there's some things we need to do to improve the state of the world, the state of New Haven, the state of Connecticut, 24/7, 365 on this day of Friday, April 16th. Joanne, kick us off and share with us about the Yale Police Department FBI initiative. I asked you to put in your jacket, but I guess you couldn't find it, but that's okay. Do you have your badge? Can you show us your badge? Can you hold your badge up to the screen?
I'm for real. It's okay.
Okay,
it's okay.
But I'll accept that you're legitimate, and kick us off about the FBI Yale Police Department Summer Program Initiative.
Right. Well, thank you for having me here today, Tom. And I'm joined by some of my FLAIA students that have graduated from our program. The FLAIA program, which stands for Future Law Enforcement Youth Academy, is a program that started in 2016. And the FBI, in partnership with Yale University, brought this program together so that we can take students from across the state and students that have an interest in law enforcement and expose them to all different types of careers that are available in law enforcement. This last year, we were not able to have the program due to the pandemic, but this year we are bringing the program back. It is an in-person program, not in the same format in which it had been in the past. In the past, our students were able to spend a week at Yale University, right, living on campus and getting the experience of the rich academic arena that Yale does offer. But this year we're going to be having 3 one-day classes that are going to be held July 26th, 28th, and 30th. There is an application process for the students to be looked at to be possibly part of this program. But what we're aiming to focus on is giving the students a bit of a taste of what the full 1-week experience would be like, because we're hoping to bring that back next year. The FLAIA program is a unique program, and we are very proud of it. What's great about it is we bring in professionals from every walk of life within law enforcement and expose students to every career that could potentially be available. We say that if our students leave not learning something about a career that they didn't know about, then we didn't do our job. But the most important part about our program is that we really teach our students about the value of emotional intelligence intelligence in law enforcement. We really want them to understand that bias does exist and that they need to have the tools in place to deal with situations and be able to kind of curtail situations that might be of conflict later if they are choosing a career along this path. And regardless of if they choose to do another career, these are types of things that are a base for just making them all kind, good human beings. That is what we need in all of our communities for the betterment of a society.
Well, Joanne, just as you're speaking, I think I better sign it. Can you accept older? I mean, I better sign up myself because I'm looking for some my emotional. I got to tell you, intelligence at the moment, but I won't go there. I know this show is not about me. The show actually for the next 20 minutes it's about Cameron and Xavier and Aliana as well as Christian. So Cameron, let's start with you, and then Xavier, and then. And I know, Aliana, have I really mutilated your name tremendously, or am I even close to the proper pronunciation?
Saying you're right, it's Aliana.
Aliana, okay, hey, all right, I get an A or an A plus, and then Christian. So Cameron, let's start with you. Xavier, you follow. Aliana, you follow, and then Christian. About your experience, the life, I won't say life lessons, just what you've retained actually, and what you remembered and why it's important. So Cameron, kick us off. Mr. Ball,
All
Mr.
right.
Bell.
So for my experience, something that definitely helped that wasn't taught or probably intended was being able to communicate with just older people or people of higher positions, and being able to keep conversation, keep their interest, and kind of just say the right thing, as juvenile as that sounds. That really something I struggle with, and so that helped me a lot in the interview process. In terms of the camp itself, the first day when you come in, it's definitely nerve-wracking because I was with 29 people I didn't know, and except actually no, I was there with one person I knew, but we tried to stay away from each other just to kind of take in the whole experience. But at least for me, me and my roommates that I was rooming with, we bonded instantly. Xavier was one of my roommates. It was a great experience on the first day, just kind of getting to know everybody, just kind of just being teenagers and having fun talking with the officers. And I met the chief of police of my town. I got to form a relationship with him. That was awesome. And on the first day we did I remember this team building exercise with hula hoops, and it was chaotic for us, but there was a class from before us that kind of showed us the way, and the general premise of if you really just put your mind to something and think about it, the solution is much easier than it actually seems. So that was awesome to kind of fumble around with ourselves and kind of look stupid, but it was awesome.
Excellent.
And one of the things that I was stressing about was we had 5 a.m. runs, and it taught me how to push myself, and I could do a lot more than I thought I could. And it was also great bonding because we'd all come back to the dorms after the run and be tired and laughing and just share how gruesome it was for us, because I'm not a big runner, and but that definitely was a great experience for me, as well as just the day-to-day classes that we got to learn about. I remember we got to learn about the case at Yale where the girl was obviously murdered, and it was gruesome to learn about, but it grabbed my interest. And then we also had a project we had to work on, and I forget what the general premise of the project was, but I just remember being up in the dorms and kind of working on it, laughing, and it was just nothing but a good time. It was always smiles when we were together. It was, and the great thing was we were all learning about something we cared about, so we were all engaged, and yeah, it was great. And in terms of things I learned from different agencies, it actually wasn't an agency that made the biggest impact on me. It was actually the SWAT team. I had no idea how interesting and how cool that job is, and it's something I'm definitely considering now that I wasn't before. Also, I just got to learn more about the FBI, which I wanted to do since I was a kid, so that was great for me. And yeah, it was a great experience, and you meet a lot of really good people, and everybody's super helpful, and it was probably one of the best weeks of my life, honestly.
Tremendous. Cameron, I'm not going to ask you. You mentioned that you roomed with Xavier.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you how loud Xavier snored, but we'll deal with that a little later. But Joanne, share with us again. I want to come back to you about how people can participate. If you're a parent, if you're listening, how if you're a student eligible, how the eligibility, the process.
Yeah, the program is open to high school students that are between the ages of 15 and 18. Information and the application can be found on our New Haven website, which is fbi.gov/New Haven. And then, and New Haven is all one word, and then navigate to community outreach. And there the application will be found. The applications will be accepted until April 23rd at 5 p.m.
Excellent. And Xavier, you're on, and I'm not going to ask you how loud Cameron snored as well, because it's good for the goose, good for the gander. But share with us, Xavier. Take yourself, unmute yourself if you would, and Xavier I need Xavier to unmute himself. There you go.
All right. How you doing? So basically, what Cameron said, the experience was amazing. I got to bond with a lot of people I did not know beforehand. I think one of the most important things was establishing those relationships, people from different backgrounds, especially within the students of FLAIA, but also, law enforcement as well. I got to establish a relationship with YPD, FBI agents, DA agents, U.S. attorneys. We were also able to get their business cards as well. So this opportunity that, Agent Benson and Agent Grady gave us was something, that's like once in a lifetime, because we were able to create these relationships. And not only that, we still keep in contact with a lot of these people. I think another important thing was like one of the activities that we did. It was called like the Judgment Zone. And this activities mostly about like cultural sensitivity and understanding your bias and prejudice and not acting on that. So this activity was called the Judgment Zone, and it was about finding I think his name was Johim Rahim.
Yes.
And basically like a guy who was falsely convicted, and he was jailed in prison for many years. And there was like a panel of 4 men, all different clothing. We had to guess, number one, the occupation, and they were all acting. They were this guy who was falsely imprisoned. And we had to, based on our judgment about how they look and what they said, we got to guess who was falsely convicted and who was the criminal. And I think this exercise was just to show how easy it is to make snap judgments, how like snap judgments could basically lead to like death of an individual, false convictions, and etc. And I think this experience was really just based off like understanding your bias and not reacting on that, and really explicitly knowing like the evidence of the situation. Because as you can see now, like nowadays many people, or there's a lot of people like certainly like black people, black and brown people who you have seen recently a lot, who have died in the hands of police officers and law enforcement. So this teaching us kids, at a young age, and everyone from different backgrounds who don't really experience or don't really communicate with people different, from different cultural backgrounds. It's really important to understand that, like, have this cultural sensitivity, understanding one's culture, understanding how one's culture interact with law enforcement, and just to not react off of judgment, but to react off, evidence, and to react, accordingly to the situation.
That's really
other than that, I thought it was an amazing experience. Actually, this program paved the way for what I'm pursuing my degree. I'm pursuing international relations, but there's still, I'm still open to joining any agency or law enforcement. So I thought it was just an amazing experience, and I'm just thankful for being, a part of this program.
Well, Xavier, Ficklin Media is looking for people, so I'll reach out to you too. I mean, keep your career options open. And Aliana and Christian, I want to thank you for your patience as well. I just want to ask another follow-up with Xavier. Xavier, you and I have a few years and decades that separates us from a birth standpoint, but we both, I think, from the visual, share the same hairstyle kind of preference. And I got to tell you that a good friend of mine, very good friend, told me 20 years ago that that the only people he knew that wore their hair like me were criminals. This is a very good friend. I mean, liberal, established MBA, And so we mentioned biases, et cetera, and perceptions. That really struck me. I mean, we're still friends. And, part of a friendship is be able to talk to a person from your heart kind of thing. And he said the only persons he knew that wore the hair like you and I were criminals. And that has really stuck with me for so long, but I digress. Aliana, let's go for it. The guys have kind of set a high bar for their experience. Did they behave themselves there at the when you were there, or do you still like them?
I wasn't there with them.
Oh, okay.
I was here after, I believe.
Uh-huh.
I know the guys when I was there were behaving. Everybody was behaving. You have to be on top of your game.
All right.
But like Cameron and Xavier said, Flay was definitely one of the best experiences I've ever had. I still talk about it to this day, honestly. And it's like, it opened my eyes to a lot of different branches, like of law enforcement. I know like before, I didn't know a lot. I know I've always wanted to be an FBI agent. And that's like, I was so focused on that I wasn't given any like thought to any other branch of like law enforcement. But when I went there, you're like taught, like a whole bunch of different agencies came and would talk. Like I know before, I did not know what DEA stood for.
What does it stand for? What does it stand for?
Drug Enforcement Association.
Drug Enforcement. Mm-hmm. Drug Enforcement Agency, right?
Administration.
Administration. Okay.
I did not know what it stood for. I know I would always hear it in the movies talking about, yeah, the DA's here, the DA's there. I didn't even know what they did. But now I know. Mm-hmm. It's like, and it really opened my, I still want to be an FBI agent. That didn't change. But I know like I have knowledge now on different branches of law enforcement, which was really helpful for me. I know that one experience that was really memorable for me is just like, it really taught me that you always have to pay attention because you never know what's going to happen. There was a situation that happened and it was a part of the program. None of us knew. And it was just a shock. So after the situation happened, we all had to sit down. They were like, okay, guys, you need to sit down, you need to report, like you have to sit down, report and tell us what happened during the situation. Like you need to describe the lady, what happened, describe like details. And we all wrote it down. We all sat down, we wrote down, like we were thinking we're reporting the situation, and they got the reports back and they were reading it, and all our reports were totally different. Some people were describing her shirt, and it was like, some people said red, pink, green. It was all over the place. It was literally all over the place. And it's just like, it really taught us, because our descriptions were not even like correct. So it's just like, it really taught us that you never know what is going to happen. You always have to pay attention. You always have to be on top of your game, like I said, because like you never know what situation you're going to be in, And if it's just like all about building relationships with not only the people that are in your group, but as well as professionals. I know there was a lot of networking, and that's something that I still need to get used to. But that really opened my eyes and introduced me to networking and like being confident in myself and being able to build relationships by myself, because I know you're not always gonna have your parents to help you talk about, oh, this is so and so, like introduce yourself. No, you have to step out of your comfort zone and approach people, even though you might not feel comfortable or you're scared. You have to push yourself in order to better yourself, create connections in order to have those in your professional life in the future. It was like a lot. It was like a lot of building personally that I learned a lot during FLEA, and it was stuff that I will take with me in the future.
Boy, that's tremendous. And Aliana, I just want to mention actually to you and to everybody else, I'll share the link for this show. I'll share with Charlie and Joanne, so for them to share it with you, because you might want to share it with your friends or your family, guess in terms of the relationship building and for your resume. So you're now in terms of, you're now starred. Get ready to kind of give out autographs, etc. but we'll send the link so that you can share it with folks. Christian, just before I come to you, Joanne, share again how people can get involved and apply and really take advantage of this information, because I think you mentioned that the deadline is rather imminent.
It's coming up quickly. It's next Friday. So anybody that's interested, that's a high school student in Connecticut, can go to fbi.gov/New Haven, which is all one word, and navigate to community outreach. I believe that it can also be found if you just Google Future Law Enforcement Youth Academy, FBI New Haven. So there are many ways that you can get there and find it out on the web.
And Christian, just hold tight for a second. Just when Joanne mentioned that, Joanne, are there any other so-called demonstration models or any of your peers throughout the nation taking advantage of this opportunity and this collaboration?
Yes, there are. The FBI office worked with Marquette University to bring this program. There's also a similar program up in the Boston area. So it is taking hold because the youth initiatives that the FBI really wants to do is form and shape our future, because all of these students across the nation are the future of law enforcement. So the FBI is very proud to work towards creating students and adults that will be the best of the best in the profession of law enforcement.
And we have the best of the best here in New Haven through the program. I mean, that's kind of clear to me. That's very obvious to me. And I say, and all jokes aside, it's so important. Sometimes I think we take for granted the opportunities we have here in New Haven in particular, and even in the state of Connecticut. So let's not sleep on this, folks. Let's take advantage of it. Christian, let's go for it, man. I'm saving the best for last. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, in terms of most memorable things about the program, definitely the process of the application. Definitely one of the most memorable things. It is definitely a very long process, but it's definitely worth it. It went in 3 phases, at least for my year. Just basic information, an essay, phone interview, and then panel interview for the 3rd phase. Definitely most memorable was the panel interview. I remember I was pretty nervous at the start. You're going into an actual FBI field office. So, you're going through security, you get a pass, you're walking through. And then I remember when I went in, it was quick. Like I was walking up, then all of a sudden I was in a room with 4 other people and they were asking me questions. And I was like, oh, it's pretty overwhelming. But, with most things, I kind of stood calm, and that's the best thing you can do. But the most valuable thing about this whole program is communication and networking. Definitely, I know other people mentioned it, but really it's the most important thing in this program, because networking, look, we're all here right now.
Indeed.
So you meet a lot of professional people, older, younger, and people from different areas as well. So like what I loved about the program the most is that everybody, like all the applicants that were accepted, basically everyone was from a different place in Connecticut. Like there was no one from where I was from. Like, so it's interesting to get different perspectives. And that's another thing that you get from this program is you get a law enforcement perspective. You don't get to hear from other people or the news. You get to look for it for yourself. You get to kind of evaluate what you think about certain things. The most memorable like team building exercise was mentioned earlier. It was called Judgment Zone. I was going to mention this earlier, and I'm specifically going to go into the team building aspect.
Great.
So we were split off into like 2 teams, and I was very lucky to have a very good team with lots of communication. For my year, it was actually a woman. So it was 4 women claiming to be the same woman. And she was in prison for several years. And she was actually imprisoned in Spain. So we actually split up into 2 groups in that already split group. And the main thing is we would have people write down what she said and people that would ask her questions. The reason why we write it down is to make sure that she doesn't change the story. So we would ask all 4 women a question. They would give different answers. So then one thing that we did was ask how old they are. Okay. Then we can kind of start cross-referencing certain things. She was in Spain for several years, so you're bound to know some Spanish. So we were lucky enough to have a team member that spoke Spanish. So we asked all four women a question in Spanish. Only one responded, and it turns out that's the person we guessed, and that was the correct person. So it's just learning how to communicate with people and learning who's best at what. You know, like I was one of the persons asking the questions because I cannot write. I am totally unorganized. So it's finding out what you're good at and basically using your abilities, and all bringing everyone up.
Well, Christian, my wife still says that I'm unorganized. In fact, she comes into my room in the office several times each week to kind of impress upon me how unorganized I am. So it's a lifelong journey. We have about 3 minutes to go, and I guess want to kind of ask Cameron and Xavier and Aliana, and then Christian as yourself also. Give me one sentence that you want to say to your friends or your peers. It could be about life. It could be about today's current events. It could be about the future. I'll start with you, Cameron. Give me one sentence that you want to kind of share with your peers or your friends or your family or your grandmother or even people that are in your family that are not only are no longer alive. So it's a really broad question, but just one sentence you'd like to kind of put out into the universe.
I think one that best describes just like everything going on and like something personal with me is just like, don't give up. Like you never know what's on the other side of the tunnel. So you just have to keep pushing forward.
Excellent. Xavier?
Mine would be take care of your mental health, find your purpose, and never stop fighting.
Excellent.
Like, you know what's right.
Excellent. Aliana?
Don't be afraid to take risks and immerse yourself in different scenarios and situations.
Perfect. Christian?
It doesn't matter if the chances are slim, just go for it.
Excellent. Excellent. You know what, Joanne? We're not as wise as these four prophets that we've just heard, but if you'd like to share a comment as well in terms of what message or one sentence you'd like to share with the universe before we sign off, that would be great.
I would. I think it's important for people to listen sometimes more than they speak. So if that's ever a wish that I could put out to the universe, you have to hear what other people are saying to you and take it in and understand it.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been heartwarming for me. We're going to go to the next segment pertaining to emergency rental assistance. But in some ways, the world is on fire. In some ways, everything is an emergency. So let's kind of see if we can damp things down, put out some fires and create some harmony and health. So I want to thank all of you for this first segment to kind of help us to be inspired and affirmed and just to link out. And actually, I think I hear the word hasn't been used by this particular group, but I think that to love one another and show your love. So I want to thank you so much for being on the Tom Ficklin Show, and then we'll get you back. We'll get you back. Once you're on the show, you've been baptized, so or anointed, or sprinkled, or ordained. You've gone through the boot camp, so you survived. Thanks so much, everybody. We're going to go to the next segment.
Great, thank you, Tom.
This next segment, we're going to deal with emergency rental assistance, and the world is, as I say, whether it's Adam and Eve days or whether it's even before recorded history, there's issues about what does it mean to be on the planet and to survive, and even if you're from the biblical standpoint in terms of Christ, there was an issue about the room at the end. So not to be too metaphorical, but I think we have on the line here, we have Margaret, we have Aaron, and we might be joined by I believe a few other folks. But Aaron, maybe kick us off until we get some of your comrades kind of join us as well about emergency rental assistance. And if you can just unmute yourself, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for hosting this segment. It's an issue that I know a lot of tenants are facing, which is that they have not been able to pay the rent as the result of the COVID-19 pandemic and its effect on their jobs and their ability to earn money. We're going to talk about the new program that Connecticut has stood up called Unite CT, which is designed to get money into the hands of tenants and landlords, both for rent arrearage and for electrical arrearages. Margaret Middleton is here. She's the executive director of Columbus House. She's going to talk about the extent of the problem that we're seeing and the issues that her agency is dealing with on behalf of tenants. And then I'll get into some of the details about the program itself.
Excellent, Margaret. I think you've been invited to kind of share kind of your wisdom and your passion with us. Let's hear from Margaret Middleton from the Columbus House.
Well, thanks so much, Tom. It is really a huge pleasure to be on your show, and it was such a treat to spend part of the morning listening to young people who are so enthusiastic and insightful. So, thanks for having us on this morning and letting us talk about this program. I'm the CEO of Columbus House, so nice to meet your listeners who may be familiar with our work. We support people experiencing homelessness in New Haven, Middlesex, Hartford, and New London counties. I wanted to give a little bit of the local perspective before Aaron is really prepared to talk about the details of the program. We're really, prior to the pandemic, New Haven was really in a considerable affordable housing crisis. It's estimated that 50% of tenants in New Haven are cost burdened, meaning they are housing cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on their rent. Housing is really like one of the social justice issues of our moment. And like everything else in the pandemic really highlighted just how deep this problem is in our community. And so when people have had these, when their livelihoods and their lifestyles have been upended, people's ability to pay rent has been really devastated. And it's being compounded by the fact that we actually have a lot of people moving into Greater New Haven because they're moving out of New York City and other more concentrated urban places. And so our housing market is actually getting tighter at a moment when a lot of people are experiencing difficulty paying rent.
Good point.
We also are facing the end of the eviction moratorium, and no one can tell you what's going to happen when the eviction moratorium ends. But we do want to get the word out to people about rental assistance that's available so that we can stave off, as much sort of trauma and displacement as happens through an eviction. So one thing I would say a couple things before I turn it over to Aaron to talk about the details. One is that this is a plea not just for tenants to sign up, but very much for landlords to participate. We really need landlords to recognize that participating in this program, despite the fact that there is a lot of paperwork and it takes a lot of steps, is really doing part of maintaining the stability and health of our community. This is not just about sort of an individual tenant and their need to stay housed, although that's of utter importance. It's really about the health of our community and what it's going to mean for our community if we have widespread eviction. The destabilization and really decimation of our community that we'd experience. I do have the numbers, Tom, for people to call so you can go online. Yeah, so I thought I would give those numbers now, let Aaron talk more about the details of the program, and then maybe if you were willing, let me do it again at the end, since then people may want to write it down.
I'm more than willing. Harry will kick us off the air around 11:55, so we'll go until then.
Okay, great. Well, I want to turn over to Erin because she knows literally everything, and I'm just the right now I'm doing the need statement, but I'm moving into the place where we can actually be helpful. It's not me, by the way, being helpful. This is a federal program, federal money that's coming through a state agency. The two entities in Greater New Haven where people can call, so people can go online and do this application on their own. If they need assistance, because it's quite documentation heavy and it can be confusing, there are two places in New Haven you can call and get an appointment to get assistance in filling out the application. One of those places is Neighborhood Housing Services. The phone number for Neighborhood Housing Services is 203-562-9668. I think I'm going to say that again. It's 203-562-9668.
Great.
And the second group that is providing this assistance is the Urban League of Southern Connecticut. And that phone number is 203-577-8607. And I'll just say that one more time. It's the Urban League of Southern Connecticut. And the phone number is 203-577-8607. I'm happy to speak more about sort of the local, impact of this like moment of housing crisis that we're in. If you have questions, Tom, and I'll turn it over to Aaron to speak more specifically about the program that's.
So before I begin about the program, I do want listeners to understand or bust a myth that a lot of tenants we find are believe. One is that the eviction moratorium prevents a landlord from evicting them. In fact, there are so many holes in the eviction moratorium. There are in fact 4 exceptions that would allow a landlord to evict a tenant, that we're seeing the rate of evictions go up at more than 100 a week. We're almost back to the point where we were a year or 2 years ago before the pandemic started. And so if a tenant owes more than 6 months worth of rent, they can be evicted. In addition to that, if they are causing a serious nuisance, they can be evicted. And if the landlord wants to move into their unit because the unit is the landlord is losing their own housing, they can be evicted. So the myth is that there isn't any evictions being filed, and in fact that's not true. So what happens if you do owe rent? The program is called Unite CT, and the only way to apply is online. So the 2 agencies that Margaret mentioned are agencies that can help a tenant go online and do an application. When that happens, there is no way for the tenant to be able to call a phone number and do the application over the phone. That's a change from the way the eviction prevention program was run prior to the 1st of January of 2021. This is a completely automated system, and we're very concerned, as is the Department of Housing, that tenants, as a result of the digital divide, are not going to be able to put in applications online. One of the things that DOH is doing is it is having a tech bus go around to various parts. I have parts of the state. I have the link up in front of me right now, and unfortunately there isn't any place in Hartford or New Haven County. I take that back. There's no place in New Haven or Hartford County that the bus is going to stop. The bus will be in Waterbury at 1 p.m. on April 21st. And I don't have the exact location, but if you call the general information number for Unite CT, they can tell you where the bus is going to stop. And the number that they need to call in order to find out where the bus is going to stop is 844-864-8328. So I'll say it one more time. If you want to know where the bus is going to stop, or to get a referral to an agency that can help you fill out a form online, the number is 844-864-8328.
Excellent.
Now, what does the program actually do? The program is designed to give tenants up to $10,000 in both rental arrearage and future rent payments, as well as $1,500 to put toward their arrearage on the electric bill. How is that going to work? Once a tenant applies, they're eligible to receive up to 6 months of the rental arrearage. So the landlord can get paid back for up to 6 months of what is owed. The only requirement for the landlord on that, in that case, is that they take a 15% haircut, meaning that, for instance, if the tenant owes $1,000 in rent, the landlord will get $850 from Unite CT. And while that may seem like it's unfair, remember that if the landlord were to go to court and bring an eviction case, there's no guarantee they would get any of that money back. Because in fact, the landlord can only get what the tenant has. And so I think what Department of Housing decided is that in order to be able to pay the most people for the most amount of rent, they'd ask the landlords to contribute a little bit here. And that money, the 6 months of rental arrearage, is paid in a lump sum. In addition to that, if the full $10,000 is not used, then the tenant can get paid rent for the future. So let's go back to the tenant who owes $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
United CT is going to pay $850 toward the arrearage. The tenant will have $9,150 left, and that can be paid to the landlord for future rent. And they'll get that in 3-month increments.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. You know, Aaron, just as you were chatting, it seems to me that I need to have you on the show just to talk about your, because I mean, your organization has been around for, I believe, 15 years, but I'm not my guess. 25 years. And,
yeah.
And after this crisis, there's going to be other crises as well. So this is a public appeal, an invitation for you to come back.
Thank you.
Because there will be some.
One of the reasons my agency got into doing landlord tenant work, we hadn't done much of it before the pandemic. What we were really doing was helping people who thought that they were the victims of housing discrimination. But one of the things we recognized very early in the pandemic is that the eviction crisis is a racial justice crisis. People of color rent their homes at the rate of 3 to 1 to people who are white. So when the courts open up again and all of the eviction moratoriums are ended, when we go into court, it is going to be a sea of people who are African American, Latino, Asian. There are going to be very few white people there. And what we're looking at, and I think what Margaret was talking about at the beginning, is a lot of people losing the stability that they need in order to raise their families, in order to keep jobs, and in order to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus again.
Right. Margaret, let's come back to you. We have about 12 more minutes, and this is such an important topic. So there's things that people need to do immediately, and there's things we need to do in the long term. I mean, it's just 24/7, 365. We just have to act so proactively and strategically. And this segment really, I think, helps people to kind of understand how we can act strategically as well as deal with the immediate opportunities. So Margaret, share with us some more.
I appreciate that perspective a lot, because you're absolutely right that Unite CT and this rental assistance is sort of the most emergent, like short-term thing we could possibly do to try to stabilize this moment of crisis. But we're actually in a once-in-a-generation moment in terms of the money that's about to come into the state of Connecticut and all states through the American Rescue Plan, in terms of our ability to create additional affordable housing options for people. And as I mentioned before about the high rate of rent-burdened households in the city of New Haven, housing costs are driving so much of the intergenerational poverty that we see. And when I say driving it, I mean, as Aaron pointed out, really what's underneath that to a huge extent is a racial disparity, because in my line of work, which is serving people who are experiencing homelessness, African Americans are grossly overrepresented in that population compared to their portion of the population as a whole. And so, I'm cautiously optimistic that we will see some of the federal funding that's coming in to the state of Connecticut be used to create lasting and important additions to the affordable housing opportunities that we have in the state. And really, the unfortunate reality is it's basically not possible for it to be enough, because the estimate of the number of units that we would need for every extremely low income person to be affordably housed is over 80,000 units. I mean, we are so far behind. And so it's been really heartening. I think this legislative session does see so much of the conversation be around zoning and these like very, very, very structural barriers we have to creating the affordable housing we need for everybody to be stably housed. I mean, I'm a big believer that housing, home is is the sort of essential thing, right? It's like food, water, and a safe, affordable place to live, a place to lay your head, a place to raise your kids. And so if as a society, like it's also something that as a society, we can sort of like really all understand and get behind as being something that we as people have a right to, right? That like we can like pretty uniformly agree that people shouldn't be sleeping outside. And so I'm grateful to you for giving a moment, you know, for that thought and sort of the support that I'm sure your listeners have given over the years to Columbus House and our effort to end homelessness in our community. So one of the things that we can do in the short term is help people get connected to this money. And you know, what we really would love to see is to have people, you know, volunteer to get trained in helping people with this program, and also make sure that we have enough outreach and events to get the word out to people who are not computer savvy, because the fact that this is an online only program will be of incredible barrier to people accessing this money. And as Aaron has mentioned, like this is a rich benefit. Like this is not a small chunk of change that's on offer to people. And so we need to pull out all the stops to make sure that people who are eligible for this have the help they need to get through the application process.
Absolutely. Share again the telephone numbers for people to kind of.
Yes, absolutely. So the two agencies that are providing assistance right now. So I would just say that folks should not sort of show up at neighborhood housing services looking for help. They definitely need to have an appointment. COVID is still in effect, and so people are able to get assistance, but it's going to be on an appointment basis. So the two places people can call are Neighborhood Housing Services of New Haven. That's 203-562-9668. Again, that's Neighborhood Housing Services at 203-562-9668. And then the second place that can do this, like really assist people who need help with these forms, is the Urban League of Southern Connecticut, 203-577-8607. That's 203-577-8607. And I would encourage your listeners also to reach out to neighbors and family members who they think may need this assistance, because it, you know, if you're 25 and live on a computer all day, you're going to be able to help, you know, your elderly neighbor with this. And you might even be able to sit through an online training and help them with this. So it's not just a matter of calling, you know, these nonprofits which are providing this service, but also each of us making ourselves available to the extent that we can to our neighbors who need this help. And also really bugging the people we know who are landlords. Like if you know a landlord, let them know that they have to be part of this solution. This is not a tenant-only program. Aaron will tell you, tenants can't just sign up for this, get the check, and hand it over to the landlords. The landlords have to be involved in the application. The landlords get the money paid to them directly. So landlords have to be signed on.
You know, just as you're speaking, I'm thinking I should maybe reach out to some landlords and have them on the show. Is there a time frame here? Is it just that once the money, the pot is gone, is what's the allocation, the time frame? How long will the money be potentially available? Does it depend on the number of folks that are applying or that are accepted? What's the process?
So right now, the Department of Housing, the state of Connecticut, has $235 million to hand out. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of people. We learned on Wednesday that the average rental arrearage that is being where payment is being requested is between $5,000 and $6,000. So that is not as high as we thought it would be. We thought it's very clear that people have been making an attempt to pay rent during this time. But in addition to that, the ARP program, American Rescue Plan program that Margaret just referred to, is going to put another tranche of money into this program. We don't know how much yet, and we don't know when, but we think that there's going to be a significant amount of money for people to be able to access. This is not like the previous emergency rental assistance program called TRAP, where the money ran out or they were unable to hand out all of the money before the money was taken away. This is going to go on for a while. Let me give you the website that people can go to in order to get more information about the program. It's www.bit.ly/UniteCT. www.bit.ly/UniteCT. I wish it was a little easier to get to the program, but honestly, I've used that link a lot. It works very well. It will get you there.
Excellent. Aaron and Margaret, let's talk. When I say talk about, the problem with doing these live shows is you can't always rehearse what you want to say, and I've been known to kind of have things leave my mouth and then kind of want to see if I can addend them. But Selah is a good friend, our current commissioner of housing, and of course I've known her in terms of her New Haven efforts. Do we want to kind of give a shout out to her, or to talk about how her department is trying to make this happen for everyone?
Go ahead, Erin.
Go ahead, I was just going to say, go ahead, Margaret.
Well, absolutely, Tom. I mean, people probably don't realize how small the Department of Housing is relative to other departments in the state of Connecticut. So the fact that they're trying to push, hundreds of millions of dollars out the door quickly is a major undertaking for the Department of Housing, no question. I'd also recognize the department, Tom, for the incredible work that they've done around supporting people experiencing homelessness during COVID. We have been at Columbus House able to support people in hotels for a full year. We've had very little COVID transmission and COVID positivity among our clients as a result, not to mention the fact that they've been able to enjoy a quality of life that's actually improved from what we're usually able to do. Thanks to federal funding that Department of Housing has been the stewards of and allocated, we were able to run shelters that are normally, nighttime only, sort of very limited operations. We were able to run them 24/7 out of the hotels this winter, both in New Haven and in Middletown. And as a result of that, a lot more people will actually move into permanent housing. So instead of these being sort of very minimally funded programs that just sort of keep people warm and provide them with, a place of respite from snow, they really were gateways to people moving into permanent housing. Mm-hmm. So we've worked incredibly closely with DOH on that, and they've been our partners in using the federal funds that have come in that are COVID related in ways that have really helped us support our clients. So we have been grateful to them for that.
Erin?
And I would also say that the Department of Housing has used some of its administrative money. So in addition to the $235 million that it received to hand out to tenants, the Department of Housing has also used $1 million of that to contract with the legal services programs to do more representation. We are also asking them to support a right to counsel for all people who are in eviction, using some of the money that they hope to get from the Department of Housing. We think that that is likely to be passed by the legislature. And so we're asking them to do that. And I think they recognize, they have been clear that legal services is an important issue, is an important partner in ensuring that people don't end up in Margaret's caseload of people who are homeless.
We want to put Margaret out of business. We want to put Margaret out of business.
That's right.
I can't overstate that. When you were saying, Aaron, how old is Connecticut Fair Housing? I was thinking to myself, Columbus House was founded in 1982. We're coming up on our 40th, the 40th birthday of Columbus House. And I can't overstate that. My greatest dream would be that Columbus House goes out of business. As a shelter, Columbus House actually supports over 300 people in units of permanent supportive housing. We've helped over 480 people move into permanent housing since the pandemic started. So we do a lot more than emergency shelter, but the day that we, turn the emergency shelter into something else will be, a huge day of celebration in this community.
Excellent. We have about two more minutes, everybody. And Harry, our station manager, will play the music. And once that music starts, that's our cue. In fact, it's not only a cue. No one will be able to hear us. They'll just hear the music. So
I like the music, Tom.
Thank you. So let's push the envelope. We have about a minute and a half. Any closing comments or thoughts?
Aaron, do you have?
Actually, I do. I think that one of the things that my agency does is a history of fair housing in over the last 100 years. And unfortunately, one of the things that shows is that every time there has been a major economic crisis, whether we're talking about the Depression, about the housing crisis after World War II, about the housing meltdown in 2008, every single time people who are white came out fine. The programs that were designed assisted people who are white, and people who of color slipped further down the economic ladder and were further unable to have the housing that they need. And I just hope that this is not going to be another example.
Listen, I'm never quitting on my mission. I'm gonna roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going. Better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you going to count blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up.